For some it might be. But since we are sitting here in Calcutta today at, which was supposed to be a winter afternoon, but it's not so winter as well. So can you, set the, premise, set the setting and tell us where this novel takes place?
Okay, I set it in 1980, I suppose, because that was my annus mirabilis in a way, my important year. I set out to go to college. And it was also only about 3 years since we had our experiment with what we thought then was fascism, which was the emergency, the loss of democracy in the world's largest and most important democracy. And it was a time when we believed that we had all learnt our lesson and that democracy would never be imperiled again. How wrong we were, how stupid we were. And perhaps because of that, in the next couple of decades, we ignored democracy largely. We thought it was like a function of the natural environment of India, that our wide variety and our diversity, which was reflected in the city of Mumbai, or Bombay as it was then called, was a sure guarantee against the rise of any single power. Anyway, we learned from that. But the 1980s were also, I think, universally despised as a time of really bad popular culture, bad taste, bad music, bad everything. It was a time in India when, jeans were like the holy grail. You wanted a pair of American jeans more than you wanted a first class in your exam. And so we actually bought jeans from the hippies in Colaba, and we boiled them at home because we're not sure how many weeks they had been worn, okay? And then put them on and strutted out with Levi's on our bums. Because that was the mark of actually having some sense of modernism, some sense of being a cosmopolitan, kind of person. So stupid and so innocent and so wonderful. Because I think, actually when I'm 56 now, this book is written about a 16-year-old Jerry for whom I am very fond. I have great fondness for that silly fellow. He wrote a diary every day. Every day he wrote a diary, and while really important things were happening around him, he was worried about the pus boils on his emotional life. He was worried about someone who hadn't said hi in the morning. He was worried about a friend who didn't, pick up a phone call. He was worried about all kinds of banal and ordinary things. But after reading that diary for a little while, I realized that his skin was thin. And his skin being thin meant that emotions were real and strong and powerful. He was full of a sense of the possibility of the world and terrified that none of these possibilities would be his. So he was in a state of I think, he was a little caterpillar pushing out of a cocoon, the cocoon being school and hairlessness. Hairless boys are okay. Everybody likes hairless boys. As soon as boys start to get hairy, they get kind of pushed away from female companionship, from mothers, they have there's an uncomfortable smell to their hairiness, and they get left alone to their own devices. So he's struggling with all that. And I'm hoping that Yuri catches some of that terribilitas, for want of a better word, for that sense of standing on, like Darien on a peak, and looking out at an entire world, but without the colonial mindset, with a sense of, please, can you find one space where I could crouch in the middle of this vast universe?
So you mentioned that, writing notes, that's something that Yuri also does, who is the title character of this book. So how would you introduce Yuri to the readers? Who is he?
Okay, throw yourself back, okay? You all look like you are very civilized people, And the kind of people who would make friends. There are people who are nodding their heads as if to say, oh, you don't know me. Oh, you don't know what rasgullas I have devoured, etc., etc. But here's the thing. You probably made your first friend around the age of 3. It was a building friend, someone, a friend in school, a friend on the playground. I made my first friend at 15. It was the first time I had experienced friendship. And that sense that you can turn when something has struck you as ridiculous, and you can turn to the other person and they respond, they relate, they're smiling too, or they're controlling their giggles. You then feel like you have wandered through a desert and you have finally tasted cool water. It is so wonderful. But since it happened for you when you were a child, you've forgotten. And for me, it is burning fresh, really fresh inside my head. 40 years of friendship later, I can still go back to that moment of epiphany, of like feeling, my gosh, this is what friendship is like. And also remember the abandonment and the sorrow when, a friend sort of drifts away for no particular reason. It's just like, there's so much to do in college and so many things to experience. And since you're just experiencing friendship, you don't want to do anything else. And the friend's abandonment leaves you with the long, cold tea time of the soul. You're stuck with no chai. And I'm joking, but I think it is actually, we forget. And it's, something that happened recently when I was walking down a street in Bombay. There's a little girl who must have been about 3 years old. She was being dragged by her mother, and she was weeping. That kind of crying, my dog died kind of crying. So of course, in India we can always ask. So we say, what happened? And the mother says, kya bataun? What do I say? Tell you, sir. In the morning when I take her to school, she weeps because she has to leave her dadi. She has to leave her granny who's her best friend. When I bring her from school, she weeps because she has to leave her friend in school. And I was thinking, kid, you and me, I wrote Yuri for you. I wrote Yuri because I remember resisting the urge to cry and drum my feet on the ground and shout, it's not fair. I just got a friend. I can't lose a friend right now. I can't. And knowing that even if you do that, it won't work. In fact, you'll end up seeming needy. You'll push the friend further away. And Yuri tries desperately, clumsily to be dignified. Like a 14-year-old. Trying to be dignified is the saddest, most touching thing in the world, according to me. I hope that's what the feeling is.
So the story begins with Yuri seeing a strange dream on the eve of, when he'll first enter college. And because he gets a little disturbed by the dream, he sort of makes a small silent prayer where he asks for a friend. And he finds this friend in the shape of Muzammil Merchant, who is very different to him in the way that he lives at Pedder Road. He's quite rich as compared to Yuri. But they're also similar in a way because they connect, that relatability that you were talking about. So tell us a little bit about this friendship, this unique friendship that they develop.
Now when I look around the environment of the middle class, I see what a desperate striving there is, that parents want their children to go to international schools where they will hang out with the right kind of people and make the right connections for later life. This is such a horrible denial of democracy. Because when Yuri went to college, when I went to college, we went to the kind of college where everyone was kind of like, there was a mill magnate's son, and there was the taxi driver's son, and there was a middle-class boy's son. And from that heterogeneity, from that exchange of experience, from even the moment when khana dabbas were opened, when lunch boxes were opened, and you smelled so many different things. And I remember seeing just 4 thick rotis and 1 potato in one lunch box. And to know that someone is going to go through that, through the evening on that, brings India's reality and rubs your nose in it. And I don't think after that you can ever become a privileged, entitled young person, because you've seen it, right? Nowadays, it's bubbles in which young people travel. They sit in air-conditioned classrooms. They have air-conditioned gyms in which to work out. They travel to school in SUVs and back. Their parents work very hard at keeping India at bay. The syllabus keeps India at bay. The syllabus, you can study in an international school for 10 years and never hear the name of Mahatma Gandhi or of Rabindranath Tagore. You may never encounter a poem by Rabindranath Tagore because you are actually reading Charles Causley or some other white man. That is the generation that I'm terrified of. Because how will they be sympathetic to the variety of India, to the complexity of India, to our ways of experiencing each other in intimacy on a train when your breath is exchanged, on a city bus where you come back smeared with another person's sweat, but you also remember how someone edged up a little and let you sit down on the bench and showed that one little moment of humanity which connected you across everything, right? How is that going to happen? I actually worry very much about that.
So these different kind of characters, say there's a Yuri and then there's a Bhavna and an Arif and a Muzambil. They're all very different from each other in terms of where they come from, their religions, their class, all of that. So is that a conscious decision to show these different things, or is it just a reflection of the time that this was happening in?
One of the things that I think friendship does, the reason why friendship is so despised, like you think about all our great stories. If a fox and a crane make friends in any one of, in the Katha Sarita Sagar or the Jatak, the friendship is doomed. They will not be friends by the end of the tale. If a crane and a turtle make friends, the turtle is dead at the end of the tale. Any cross friendship, because friendship is anarchic. When you turn and that person is smiling at you and you are smiling back, that fire is lit. That fire is not asking, is he Hindu, is he Muslim, is he Dalit, is he anything. It's just acknowledgement. That strange
That connection is
Greek
dangerous.
notion, no, that we are all wandering around looking for the other half of ourselves, the yin to our yang, that, male principle to our female principle, or our male principle. We're just looking for that other person to meld with, right? This is friendship, this is love, both of which are very important in our popular culture. So all our films are about love. And we are supposed to enjoy love inside the films. And then you're supposed to come out and ask your parents, who have you chosen for me as to marry? And your parents will tell you what a wonderful girl or boy they have lined up for you. They think he is wonderful. You may not, but you will please do your duty by the larger structures of Indic civilization. Because you marrying outside your caste or your community or your religion will imperil India. That is the basic fundamental concept, right? And here is friendship running wild and saying, come home, sit with me, drink water from my kitchen, eat from my plate, smear me with your thoughts, infect me with your ideas, cross-pollinate our cultures. Tell me what you think. It is such a wonderful thing, friendship. And it is so little celebrated because everyone wants to talk about love. Because love and sex and then, all good things and nice visuals happen.
So this amazing friendship that Yuri and Muzammil share, they have a lot of banter and these back and forth conversations. They're also peppered with a lot of, literary and cultural references of that time. So how was that decision to put all these small nuggets into the tale?
See, yeah, if you're a kind of nerdy boy, right, the only thing you have is references. Okay, like, I mean, you have quotations with which to shore up your flagging self-esteem. You're not going to ever kick the goal for and win the match. You're never going to score that century, but you can, in passing, when someone comes and lets you, you've been minding something, and you're standing at the door of the hall, and someone comes and stops and lets you go, you say, "For this relief, much thanks." And you wait to see whether he knows it's Hamlet. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, you say, when, you like constantly, sort of like making references to show that you know something. It's so sad. And it is the way in which young men actually bond, okay? Because we can't, okay, my thing is, mixed martial arts, fight club, all these things were created because men cannot just touch another man in friendship, so they hit each other. So one day maybe men will just hug without anyone saying, "Hey, good, hey, gay, what are you doing? Yeah." Okay? Once we get to that point where men can hug men casually and feel that warmth, and give some warmth, receive some warmth, we will have much less of this, let's hurt each other and pretend that this is fun. Let's go onto the field and do a rugger scrum and get concussions and whatnot, because we can't just be friendly with each other. Men are a very sorry species. But the fact that young men seem to be a little different, they're painting their nails, they're cultivating a more female side, they're talking about being non-binary. This gives me great, great hope for all of us. Because when the lowest of the low improve, then everyone improves. So when men begin to stop being terribly patriarchal and terribly penis-oriented and phallogocentric, and all, phallogocentric, I mean, is penis word center, as far as I can tell. And phallocentric is penis in the center, which it is, it seems, physically, but it doesn't have to be in the center of the universe, no?
An interesting thing that, Yuri tells Muzammil is that wealth is never personal, it's political.
What can I say? The boy is a socialist at heart, okay? And this is the thing, yeah, we were all socialist. In 1981, India today, bless its capitalist little heart, had a poll where they asked young people across the country, what do you think is the single most important thing in choosing a job? And across the country, young people told a huge lie and said, the most important thing in choosing a job is the ability to make a change in society. At number 10 was salary. Okay? In 1992, they repeated the same poll, and without anyone being very surprised, salary came in at 1, and making a change limped in, holding its Gandhian, khadi to itself at number 10, right? So in the 1980s, the generation was one that had been told, everyone else first, self last, right? Yourself came last. So even when you were improving yourself, even when you were studying French at the Alliance, all those things that we did to improve the self, to prepare ourselves in some way for that moment, when that ticket would come and the passport would be stamped. And the sweaty self would present itself at the embassy, where they would look you up and down and think, certainly not. But that preparation, even when that was going on, that preparation was, you told yourself, as much for you, as for your family, as for your clan, as for your community, as for your state, as for your country. This is what you told yourself, right? And many of the things that Yuri does are driven, reluctant, he goes and he volunteers at a camp, right, for displaced people. He doesn't want to. He's bored of the work. He's tired by the long journey that he has to take. It's a dusty, long journey to Bhiwandi, but he makes it. Today, you have to actually tell young people that they will get marks or they will get some incentive before they'll step out of their comfort zone. And whatever, causes they take up will be very safely around Shakespeare Shorani and Park Street, not going terribly far out, into the wilderness. So I think, in some senses, when he says wealth is always political, it's not personal, it's actually what we felt. And today, wealth is personal. You are entitled to it. And if the person next, you take a very simple thing like advances that are paid to authors. Every author will try and get the best possible advance. They will have agents to make sure they get the best possible advance. What does this do to the book trade? It means that less books will come out. There will be less diversity on the bookshelves, because if I give an author like a 2 crore advance, I could have used that 2 crores to do 30 books.
To different kinds of voices.
And make
maybe
different kinds of
smaller
voices
authors and
available.
that.
But I'm saying this voice is entitled to this kind of money. And that voice, who is writing about issues and telling you how the world needs to be different and a wonderful, inclusive place, will take the money. You see? I'm pointing out that our tribe is also part of the problem. It's not like it's you, not us. You did it all. Because that's, I think, what authors also can be. Whenever I've passed one of the sessions, I've heard 2 sounds. One is blame the audience, and the other is I'm self-important. Those are the 2 sounds that we put out routinely. Okay? And it is time for us to stop. We are you. We share our values. The reason you read us, perhaps, is because we share those values. But it's time we challenged ourselves, no? Otherwise, we're all going to end up like self-important little shits. And that's not good for writing also, or reading.
What you were talking about, like even Yuri's friends who were that time trying to, being communists, socialists, they were trying to leave home and pretty much do something. And these are 14, 15-year-olds. But that would hardly be possible in, say, today's Mumbai. Like it was happening in the 80s of Bombay, but you wouldn't see that today, would you?
No, I think, look at how Calcutta has changed. Right? I mean, Mumbai was in your head, in the average Bengali's head, Mumbai is the depths of depravity. Okay? It is like that horrible city where they all worship money, they do not have culture, and they do not even have luchis. Now, if you do not have luchis and you do not have culture, then what is it? How is it a city? Right? So we got a pass anyway. But Calcutta, there's no revolutionary fervor much left in Calcutta either. There isn't much at all, anywhere. So in a way, Yuri is a song, a dirge, a lament for the time when young people thought, I can change the world. I will throw this frail, small, unimportant body into the battle, and I will change the world. Yeah? It's so stupid. It's so stupid to think that one person can change the world. It's so stupid to think that 10 people can change the world or 1,000 people can change the world. You can't. But it is so beautiful to watch. It is martyrdom. It is pyasa. Gurudat standing, ye takton, ye tajon, samajon ki dunya. Jala do, jala do, jala. Oh, yay! All of us like rise inside our hearts and we are all cheering for him because you go. Tu ja. We'll all sit here and watch you going.
So this song, this lament that you said, I found that I found that his relationship with his uncle, that's like a soft hum in the background of the story. So can you tell our readers about that, his relationship with his uncle?
My question to myself was, how am I to construct a Yuri who doesn't make a friend till he's getting to college? Okay, because Yuri walked into my head as a short story. Yuri was walking to the station wearing a langot instead of a pair of Y-front VIP underwear, which he wanted very badly. And he had a 10 rupee note, which was like real wealth to him. And he was going to college for the first time and hoping to make a friend. This was how Yuri just walked into my head, and I started writing him as a short story. And then suddenly just expanded and expanded and expanded, and it became like, 200,000 words. And I thought, oh my goodness, maybe not a short story, maybe a novel, but I just write until I'm done. How do you make this chap unable to make friendships? So I gave him a strange uncle, not not father and mother. He's an orphan, and orphans are always regarded with suspicion in this country because you never can be sure whether they have jat and paat and all. So he's an orphan brought up by his uncle in a church-like situation, very close to a church, so that everyone's a little suspicious of him. So that uncle and son relationship, I could then explore the idea of a non-patriarchal male trying to raise an alternative boy and failing all the time. Because the boy is aratera. He will pull against, like we all pulled against. And then, like by the time you're in your 50s, your like regular routine mantra is, my daddy was right. My daddy used to say and he was right. My granny used to say and she was right. Every buzurg was right, but when you heard it the first time, they were wrong, they were, bourgeois, they were...
Stopping you from doing what you want to do.
They were over 30 and you can't trust anyone over 30. So, forget about it. And you'd put on the, that sort of, can I go now? Kind of face. And they also knew that, and then they would say also, when you are older, you will realize. And, you said older like you, and realize this nonsense cliches. My life is going to be bohemian with madness and absinthe for 11s and that sort of shit. Doesn't happen that way. 56, you're like thinking, oh yeah, my parents were right. Are we supposed to go to audience?
No, we have some time. We have some time.
We do? Okay,
Yes,
lovely.
So Yuri also has a lot of self-doubt. Whatever, if he does a small thing, he's always feeling very guilty, and he doesn't really know if he fits in. So he's always trying to, figure that out. And one of the ways is he writes things down when he's feeling all this guilt. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, Paul, the audience. I want to know if any of you has been able to get to this point of the day without one moment of self-doubt. Put up your hands. Put up your hands if you've had a serious self-doubt since morning. Yeah? You're, okay. This, of course, is a kind of special audience because you're literary, you're readers, you've come at 1:30 to listen to me. But if you are at all self-aware, you are always in the process of self-doubt. The problem is, when you are younger, you feel you're alone with your self-doubt. Because everybody is putting up like little appearances and, using quotations that you don't know and saying, oh dear, you haven't read the, the Tale of Genji by Lady Murasaki. It's a wonderful work. They read 5 pages, but, they managed one line from those 5 pages and they are telling you that they read a 1,200-page book. So you feel like completely inadequate. It's that constant back and forth. Now what you realize at this age is that self-doubt is a way forward. It's a way to keep examining oneself, to look in the mirror and to question. But that self-doubt that Yuri has, I think is kind of universally the way we look at who we are and try to sort of change that self a little bit. Sometimes you improve the self and sometimes you silence the self-doubt. You just bang it on the head, you kill it, and you end up complacent. Would you rather be complacent or would you rather be self-doubting? It's such a terrible binary. And I think there is no such thing as a settled place. You're not in a constant state of self. Like in the morning I get up and I'm fairly self-doughty. By 11 o'clock I'm complacent. By 12 o'clock I have self-doubt again. By 1 o'clock I'm getting ready to come on stage and I'm thinking, Jerry, abhi self-doubt dur kar. Now it is time to sell the book. So go out there and sell the book. And then of course I end up not talking about the book and I'm talking about self-doubt and I'm talking about everything except my book, which is very nice, please buy. Okay, I did my commercial bit now.
Towards the end of the book, we see Yuri and some of his friends have found, their common love of poetry. And we see one of his friends, Naren, who points out that they wanted to create this safe space where poetry, was important. So how important is it to create such safe spaces where people don't have to feel so much self-doubt, so as to say?
I think, there is no doubt that you must create safe spaces for the creative process. Because the creative process is all about walking a bridge while you're building it. So literally you're putting the brick there, and then you're putting your next leg on that brick, and then you're putting that next brick there and putting your next brick on it. And each time, if you're a writer, for instance, you walk into a bookshop and you see thousands of books. All these books are potential competitors for the 600 rupees that you're asking for your book. Why do you need another book? Those books ask you. You go to the street, you go to College Street, and those hundreds of books which are saying, take me home, love me again, I used to be somebody's book, they dumped me here, take me home, I'm dusty, shake me out, read me again, fill your soul with me. Those books are also saying, are also telling you the story of your creative process. So therefore, in one room, somewhere in the city, where you can sit with a poem, and you can worry about a caesura, or an end-stopped line, or you can say, I'm wondering if this metaphor works or not. And everyone bends their mind seriously to this task. They don't say, end-stop line, what is the end-stop line? And stop it or don't stop it, doesn't matter. Who cares? Who reads poetry anyway? No one's saying that. They're saying to you, this matters. All of us will work on it together. That's gorgeous. That's like balm. That's like a comforter on a winter night, curved around you, your tribe, which is why we come to festivals, because we see you as our tribe, far-flung maybe, but our tribe. Give yourself a hand. Tribe. Big hand, yeah. What is this VD clapping?
After listening to you talk about, the time and Yuri, how much of Yuri is autobiographical? How much of he is based on you? Because I get a feeling he might be a little bit.
Yuri, Jerry, da. Okay. I once wrote a book about Leela Naidu, who was one of the 5 most beautiful women in the world. Right? I have always wanted to be stunning, like physically stunning. So that I walk into a room and people all stop and say, what was that? Like, who came in? I want to be Brad Pitt without his shirt and having had a bath and coming out wet. Like that, stunning. Brad Pitt, circa 21, meet Joe Black type, stunning, okay? And I ended up like this, which is okay, but it's not stunning, okay? When the mind comes into play, thoda stunning happens, but you have to be receptive and ready and willing to talk about books. All kinds of requirements are there. But I just wanted that physical beauty, to be able to walk in. And I imagined also how I would handle that physical beauty with like a careless ease, like, oh yes, stop it, stop salivating, I understand. And when I met Leela Naidu, I saw someone who was doing that. And so when she said, write my autobiography, that part of myself came into play to write a 70-year-old woman's autobiography. What word do we produce that does not come from some part of the self? What word do we produce, whether it is non-fiction or fiction, that has not resonated in some chamber of heart or soul? And if it has not, then it is a fake word. And you will distrust the word automatically, because you understand that. So when people ask me autobiography, I say everything. Helen ke baare mein, I wanted to dance like that. I wanted to be able to turn, to be, like electrifying. So I wrote about Helen, okay? Everything comes from some very deep place inside me. Otherwise, when it doesn't come from a deep place inside me, I tear it up again. Because there are often times when I give in to the desire to seem really intellectual, to write a poem about Apollo, god of doorways, because he's the god of doorways. So what a lovely idea to write a poem like that, which says, I am au courant with Greek mythology. Like, I write the poem also because I give in to that. I give in to that and I'm completely dreadful, self-important shit when I'm doing it because that's also part of me and I'm not denying that part. But I won't send it out into the public. I won't inflict it on you. I hope that I have that much of a shit filter. Like, I mean, like the shit, stay at home, and okay, you can go out there.
So when did you know that the story was, done? When do you stop? Like, because you're writing about this young boy who's 14,
Now we are
15.
trying not to do the spoilers at the end of the book.
Yes.
So, okay, how does the book end? I think with the Bildungsroman, where you're actually, congratulations, first interviewer not to use the word. Because interviewers also have to say, I'm so knowledgeable, it's just German word, and it means the growth of a person. I think Yuri grows on three axes. Okay, there's the personal, there's the political, and there's the poetic also. None of these offers you a valid end point. None of these says, okay, you're done. You've grown up now. Okay, you're done. You're a poet. Okay, you're done. You have a set of political views that will work for the rest of your life. So how do you stop a Bildungsroman? You can only stop it by ceasing to write about the person, by abandoning him. I abandoned Yuri. I gave him a moment, a shaking moment, and then I abandoned him. I left him alone. You now must take Yuri to your heart. You have to adopt Yuri. When you read him, he lives again, and you will not, I hope, not be able to resist writing the next chapter inside your head. Because that's what we always do, with the book we love. Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. People who liked Rhett will say, she tries, but he refuses. He never gives in. And people who love Scarlett will say she tries, and he gives in. And then they have plenty lovely babies together, and Hattie has to look after them because Scarlett's not looking after no babies. She has to get into her curtains and go out dancing again. I hope that Yuri will become some part of your living cast of characters from the non-living space of fiction.
One last question from me before I throw it open to the audience. He has a very fun Instagram page and the reels are quite entertaining. So the last reel that I saw where you talk about reviews, do you read all your reviews and how does that go?
I read every single thing that is mentioned about me with an addict's, sort of obsessiveness. Someone once asked me, when did you last do your vanity search? And I said, like half an hour ago. And when are you going to do your next one? Like half an hour from now? Of course I am. Of course I'm reading each one of my reviews. And if I have a bad review, I weep. And if I have a good review, I doubt. Like I wonder, why does this person like the book? I don't. It's that state of self-doubt which is really quite traumatizing in a way. That, you can't trust the compliment either. You want to know, what's your agenda? Okay, why do you want to say nice things? So stupid. Embrace the compliment, reject the insult, get on with your life. So easy to say, so difficult to do. If you've ever received an insult, that whether it is real or not, you will notice that for a day or two, there is a conversation in your head with that person. You are talking constantly to them and putting them in their place and telling them what was wrong about what they said. But I mean, that's giving them control over your thought process. That's terrible, but it's inevitable and we do it. But maybe at 65 or something, I'll get over it and I'll tell you if I do. But till then, understand, if, someone comes up to me and says, in passing, what kind of writing? I will be talking to them for 2 weeks after that.
This book has received some very, very good reviews, so I'm sure he's talking to himself about it, how right or how wrong they are. We can take some audience questions, so if you can raise your hands.
Akash. Are you giving Akash the mic?
Oh God. got me on spot.
That was a bit of PR. I met Akash before and I want to use his name to show that I remember.
I'm a plant. uh, it was so lovely to hear you, Jerry, and I'm just trying to recollect myself. I have two small questions, if that's okay. So my first question is regarding your book, Bombay Meri Jaan. And while going through it, it reminded me a lot of Kala Ghoda poems by Arun Kolatkar. So if you could tell any comments on that and why it reminded me of it, so I'd like to hear your view as well. And second, all throughout the talk, it almost felt like there is some sort of similarity that at least I feel to the character Yuri, and I'm guessing a lot of other people in bits and pieces feel somewhat related to Yuri. So the title says Education of Yuri, and there was this constant back and forth about how times are changing, and those times in which Yuri was growing is not anymore. So could it be that it sort of, the book is sort of for us also to look at education of Yuri, as in Yuri, the way we relate to Yuri, and how with the changing time there's so much for us also to re-educate ourselves?
Thank you for that, Akash. The first question, Arun Kolatkar's Kala Ghoda poems are very important to me. Beautiful poems, startling ones, but please read Jezuri. Read Jezuri, one poem a day. And just like work your way into that magical world also. Like, I mean, startling. It wasn't when Bombay Meri Jaan came out, the Kala Ghoda poems were still being nursed in his breast. And if he had not been diagnosed with cancer, they would not have come out even till today. He would still be pinching them, working on them. As for the second question, the education is always multivalent, right? So while we are reading Yuri, perhaps there'll be a little bit of education. Yuri's education is not just him sitting in class, though it takes in the 5 years of his education. He is educating himself when he's a teacher. He is being educated by Muzammil, by Arif, by Bhavna. Every first girlfriend is a total education in herself, like, because she's going to work on you like you are, and she's going to refine you for the next one. Next question, the young lady in the black top.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Pragya Dev. I'm pursuing my PhD, and I must say that I am shoulder deep in your works because I am working on 3 texts of yours. One where you come out as a storyteller in M and the Big Who. Another one is you as an editor, and the third one is you as a translator, Cobalt Blue. Okay. So, sir, I predominantly work with the, care and vulnerability. So, when we talk about M and the Big Whom, I see so many tabs that you say that there was one tab that opened. And how do you see care? And the second question, that's a short one. How do you see belongingness as not belonging? It as belongingness incorporates non-belongingness as well.
Okay. To take the first one very quickly, how do I see care? Care is both a gift and a burden. Okay, the gift is that it will rip you open and leave you bleeding when you're caring for someone. But that bleeding is often the release of a lot of toxic energy that you've been carrying around. So it actually helps you with a certain growth process. So nothing is free. Love brings vulnerability with it. Friendship brings empathy with it, and empathy often is a great cost that we pay because we care for the person enough to be vulnerable for them, so that if someone hurts my friend, I am also hurt. And that means that's what empathy actually fundamentally means. For the second question, which was about belongingness, right? Belongingness, see, when I define you as my tribe, I'm claiming you. And I'm saying I'm barricading us against the world. And we are together now. All our lives we seek belonging. And all our lives we labor against belonging. So everything is a paradox. It is not a surprise that it's a paradox that, your family, for instance, will give you roots and will give you wings. And then you will beat your wings, but the roots will hold you down, right? Both of these are their gift to you. And you have to figure out how to use the roots and how to use the wings. Yeah?
So beautifully put.
Yellow shirt. yellow shirt at the back, and then white shirt here, and then Burberry jacket. Yeah, yellow shirt. I think we are probably really out of time, so let's make them quick
Yes,
questions.
please, short
no good
questions.
afternoons and all, just launch the question.
Jerry, we know that you are a hardcore Bombay boy. You are a hardcore Bombay boy. Much before knowing you as a regular columnist in the Week magazine, I knew that you are an author of Bombay Meri Jaan. My question is, being grown up in Bombay and going to Sydenham College in early 80s, how change you've noticed in Bombay's socialist thought? Once upon a time, Bombay was the city for all communist movement. All communist thinkers, early era socialist thinkers are from Bombay. Now in today's Bombay, how different is that from what you used to see in 60s and 70s?
I think there is no city where socialism has retained a foothold. And speaking in Calcutta, I often think, or Kolkata, I'm sorry, I keep harking back. But speaking in your city, I feel ashamed to talk about Mumbai's socialism, because you all were also socialist. And that's gone. Okay, we've all given it up. Because socialism makes the hard ask of putting the community over the self. And we don't want to do that anymore. We are now very clearly individualists, and we will go out and buy our Fab India saris and our Bailoom kurtas. We will do that, and that is our only bow towards who we are in the larger scheme of things. Otherwise, we are completely and totally global citizens, or we're desperate to be, and we're trying hard to give up any trace and stigma of the pink stain. Young man in the corner.
Should I just? Yeah, I was wondering, like you talked about male friendships and the fact that we can't express our affection in a wholesome manner. So I was wondering, how do you navigate it? Like in the 30s and 40s, it becomes even more difficult compared to a teenager.
No, it becomes easier. Actually, it becomes easier in the 30s and 40s and 50s because everyone has given up any notion of labeling. Now everybody has sort of got it that, you know, you're going to be a friend for half an hour in the morning and you're going to be my worst enemy for half an hour in the evening, but we'll figure it out. We'll stumble along, and we'll hold on to each other and stumble along. You give up the notion of categories. You give up the notion of basically what is patriarchy about? Part of patriarchy is the constant being scanned by other men for any trace of vulnerability. And then they will attack. Later, you know, you've left the playground. You've achieved a certain distance from all that. Now, nobody's a stud. Okay? Everyone's penis is inadequate. Everyone is kind of like hamam mein sab nange or nange hoke. We have seen each other's defects, and we will live with that. It is much easier. By the time you get to your 50s, you can pick up I can send messages to my male friends saying, I'm sitting in the sun and I love you and I'm so glad you're in my life. And they, because they are slightly still embarrassed, will write back ditto. They won't say, I love you too, but they'll write back ditto. And you say, okay, sometimes I will ring them up and say, bastard, say. And they say, okay, Jerry, I love you, yeah, fuck off now. I got work to do. You don't have work to do because you're a writer. I got work to do. I can't say I love you in the middle of the office. As you can message now. So it goes on like that. I mean, you know, now you can sort of like play with the image and not be so worried about it because the six-pack nahi hone wala hai. Nahi hone wala. And I now have a moment when I rub my stomach and say how much pleasure you gave me. How much, all this eating that I did, so nice I feel that you're here. Because it was all that I ate. Okay, so I'm fine, yeah, I'm better now. Burberry coat, and then
This will
please
be our
come and buy
last
books,
question.
otherwise I'll
Yes.
sit there looking like a jackass. Yeah.
You talked about creating the character of Yuri based on your thoughts, ideas, and lived experiences. Was there a part of you that the character Yuri molded by the time you decided it was abandoned writing about him?
Oh, I think, you know, the act of writing is so potent, okay, is that you can actually rewrite your interior landscape with the writing. So I would say, like, if you're going through shit, right, at any point in time, write. Just write it down, but write as honestly as possible. And don't stop at the bad shit. Like, you know, when you finish writing how much he hurt you and what a shit he is and or she is or whatever it is, finish that and then start writing that I will overcome passage, okay? Even through tears and snot and phlegm and anger and, you know, like, I mean, whatever bodily exudations happen, I sometimes cry so much I fart. Okay, like everything is possible in that moment. But write that I will overcome thing, because when you, even that small pretense that you are saying to yourself, I will overcome, is, you remember that image that I gave you, that you're walking the bridge as you build it? That I will overcome, when you have put it down, is a very small shaky step, shaky brick, but when you step on it next day, it's a little firmer. And you still write that nasty stuff down, and then the next I will overcome is a little firmer, and then one day you're actually meeting the person on the street, and you're saying, you taught me a valuable lesson about my resilience. Thank you for that. Now kindly fuck off from my life. Yeah?
I have a question. Jerry.
Hi.
Hi. So I haven't read your book.
Please take it off stage. I think we're out of time. A big round of applause for Jerry for this very, very engaging and entertaining conversation. The book is really very good, and the reviews also say the same thing. I've read it myself. Please go take a copy. It's available at the just outside the East Gate, and he'll be happy to sign some copies. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.